Hi, I'm Austin Tichenor. I'm an actor and a director and a playwright, and I'm also the co-author of Pop-Up Shakespeare. Reed Martin, my partner with the Reduced Shakespeare Company, and I wrote the text, and the wonderful Jenny Maisels drew all the beautiful illustrations and created all these fabulous pop-ups. It's our way of making Shakespeare presentable and fun and understandable for, honestly, children of all ages, and I have been known to pull it off my own bookshelf when I have to remember something. I've been asked to film this video to support independent bookstores, Inside for Indies, and I'm thrilled to do it because independent bookstores, I spent a lot of time in them all of my life. I grew up in the East Bay of California, the San Francisco Bay Area, and so my stores back then were, Piedmont Avenue Books, Montclair Books, a great good place for books, which is still there. In college, went to Berkeley, so the great Moe's Books, Cody's Books were there, just down the street from the original Rasputin Records. Lived in L.A. for a good long while. Chevalier's Books was my go-to in Larchmont Village, and now my independent bookshop here in the North Shore of Chicago is the Bookstall in Winnetka. And in fact, they can, if you're interested in an autographed copy of Pop-Up Shakespeare, the Bookstall in Winnetka has them. So this is my office. I'm going to throw to my phone to give you some B-roll here, but this is my desk is the classic college student's door on a couple of filing cabinets. And as you can see, I'm down here in the basement because that's where my wife puts me because she doesn't like a desk that is made out of a door on filing cabinets in the public arena. But it's great because I like a lot of space. Got a big monitor. Some of my research things are over here. Including when I'm looking for Shakespearean reference. I also wrote Reduced Shakespeare, the Complete Guide for the Attention Impaired Abridged, co-wrote it with Reed Martin. And I go to this a lot, actually. We called it an irreverent reference book, which we said was in a reference book, a term that has shockingly failed to catch on. I think we just found out that the book is out of print now. It was published in 2006. And, we wanted to call it the complete, Reduced Shakespeare, the Complete Guide to America's Greatest Living Playwright. And the publisher thought that was a little subtle. So maybe now that the rights are reverted to us, we could publish it ourselves under that title. Over here is my Wall of King. This is all of my Stephen King books, which I've been collecting and reading religiously since I first found a paperback copy of Carrie on a rack very much like that one. This is where I keep all my old paperbacks from when I was a kid. My Star Trek novelizations, my Mad magazines in book form, and all the paperbacks I read. The Godfather, page 27. Anybody? Come on. But where are my Shakespeare books, you ask? It's a very good question. We're going up this spiral staircase now. This is kind of the other half of my office, which is where most of the books are kept. My wife says she wants to get rid of the spiral staircase. I say only if we can replace it with a fire pole. But here are my Shakespeare books. A little bit of British bunting. These are the Folger Shakespeare Library editions of the complete works of Shakespeare. I like them a lot. I've performed at the Folger Shakespeare Library Theater, and I blog for them monthly, so I have a great fondness for them, but also, honestly, I also like the Arden editions, too. But you can see I've also got a lot of my favorite authors here, all my Christopher Moore novels, Jasper Fforde novels, Nicole Galland, who has written Iago over here, but also The Rise and Fall of Dodo. She's coming out with a sequel next year. Very much looking forward to that. Up here, the important artifacts of my life, really. My lunch boxes. That Hogan's Heroes is original. The thermos is gone. But there's a Reduced Shakespeare Company lunchbox. I had to make that myself, but still. So now let's rush back downstairs, and I want to read to you a bit from Robertson Davies, huge favorite of mine as an author. What's Bred in the Bone is maybe my favorite novel as a standalone piece, but I'm also a huge fan of his Salterton trilogy, which is 3 novels, Tempest Tossed, A Mixture of Frailties, and Leaven of Malice. And he's just a fantastic writer. He combines, sort of British erudition with a Canadian understatement. And he's a lover of art, both performing and visual, and I just love his writing style. This is from the first novel, Tempest Tossed, which concerns a community theater production of The Tempest. And this is a scene which features Humphrey Cobbler, who's the local church organist who has been assigned to be the musical director for this production of The Tempest. Half an hour later they had eaten a good many sandwiches and drunk some of Solly's rye, which for the occasion he had diluted with soda water instead of the lukewarm drizzle from the tap. Humphrey Cobbler had established himself as the leader of the conversation and was holding forth on music. "If there is one gang of nincompoops that I despise more than another," said he, chomping on a chicken sandwich, "it is the gang which insists that you cannot reach any useful, interesting conclusion by discussing one art in terms of another. Now, there is nothing I enjoy more than talking about music in terms of painting. It's nonsense, of course, but at worst it's dull nonsense. But if you get somebody who knows a lot about music and a lot about painting, it is just possible that he will have an intuition or a stroke of superlative common sense which would put you on a good scent. If you ask me, we're too solemn about the arts nowadays, too solemn, and not half serious enough. And who's at the root of most of the phony solemnity? The critics, leeches, every last one of them, hateful parasites feeding upon the blood of artists. Do I bore you?" "You don't bore me," said Hector. "Not that I know anything about the arts, though I have had some musical experience," he smiled shyly. "I used to pump the organ in my father's church." "Did you now?" said Cobbler. "Do you know, that's the first really interesting thing I've heard you say. It humanizes you, somehow. Can you sing?" "Very little. I've never had much of a chance." "You ought to try it. You've got a nice speaking voice. You ought to join the singers in the play. Now there's music that you can get your teeth into. Purcell, what a genius. And lucky, too. Nobody has ever thought to blow him up into a godlike genius, like poor old Bach, or a misunderstood genius, like poor old Mozart, or a wicked and immoral genius, like poor old Wagner. Purcell is just a nice, simple genius, rollicking happily through eternity. The boobs and the gramophone salesmen and the music hucksters haven't discovered him yet, and please God they never will. Kids don't peck and mess at little scraps of Purcell for examinations. Arthritic organists don't torture Purcell in chapels and tin Bethels all over the country on Sundays, while the middle classes are pretending to be holy. Purcell is still left for people who just really like music." "I like the music you've chosen for the play," said Hector. "What we heard tonight was very pretty." "Thank you," said Cobbler. "Pretty isn't just the word I would have chosen myself for Purcell's elegant numbers, but I discern that your heart is in the right place." Thanks for listening. Thanks for taking this tour. Please support your local independent bookshop, and stay safe and stay home.